Yeah, so an overview on the International Year of Light. It was a bit of a crazy year, I have to say, for me personally at least. The concept of there being an International Year of Light was actually decided on the 20th of December 2013. The UN General Assembly, 68th session, decreed that 2015 would be an International Year of Light and light-based technologies. A lot of the immediate and early focus was on the photonic side of things, so very much the technological side. So fortunately we were able to put in sort of lighting application into the International Year of Light as well, to balance off the scientists a bit. At the foundation there were 12 founding partner organisations for the International Year of Light, and then a number of sponsors came on board, including the Society. It had some notable patrons: the Queen of Spain, President of France, President of Ireland, and the UK, His Royal Highness the Duke of York was the UK patron. So I think having high-profile patrons helped to elevate the year. The year started, apologies for the slightly grainy picture taken on an iPhone in the cold. The year started in Paris with an official launch at the UNESCO headquarters, which was amazing. We had, I think, 6 Nobel laureates talking. I didn't understand a lot of what was said, got to be honest. But 2015 was chosen partly because it was a number of anniversaries. So it was 1,000 years since the sort of Ibn al-Haytham's sort of route to enlightenment. And they actually set up, on the right, that's a camera obscura, which is the biggest one in the world, human scale. So people could go in and have a look at the camera obscura, which then apparently travelled around the world. This was a photo I took of one of the presentations in Paris. This is a Nobel physicist, Dr. Phillips, and he spent about 40 minutes throwing liquid nitrogen around. No gloves, no mask, no hat, but demonstrating how light and photonics works on a scale with liquid nitrogen. I'm glad I wasn't in the front row. It was properly throwing it around. I've got some stats from John Dudley, who's the coordinator for the entire year. Over the course of the year, and these numbers are still going up as we find out more and more events, there were over 6,000 events across 7 continents, which was including a man on a discovery ship in the Antarctic, managed to do a seminar to broadcast to get the 7th continent, and over 148 countries took part. It got quite good media attention. There was over 15,000 media mentions across 120 countries, and that included in the UK papers like The Guardian and The Times. So it wasn't just lighting press that was talking about it. It did actually manage to reach out to a slightly wider audience. He's got here 3,500 tweets. I reckon there was more than that from my phone. And those tweets, for those of you who are not Twitteratis, an impression is like an appearance on someone's timeline. I've got some stats later which might change those numbers. Overall, there was over 100 videos produced and 5 musical compositions, which I found quite cool. This is a kind of breakdown of the types of events and activities that were held up across the world. The one at the bottom there, stamp and coin issues. Stamps actually became quite a big thing for the International Year of Light. This is a slide from John Dudley's presentation in Mexico, showing a number of the stamps that were produced across various countries. And this was a stamp that was produced specifically for the International Year of Light closing ceremony in Mexico. And I have my copy here, if you want to have a look. Nobody nick it though.
Very trusting industry.
It's worth $13.50. You know.
That's Mexican dollars.
Yeah, Mexican dollars. All right, don't knock it. It's my treasured stamp, that is. Coming into the UK, the International Year of Light started the preceding Christmas. So Christmas 2014, we were able to produce 3 lit baubles for the Downing Street Christmas tree, which is designed in the UK, and you can just about see proudly outside number 10, which was a pretty good start to the year. For the Society, our first main event was at the Royal Institution of Great Britain. We held a lecture on Fresnel. It was 200 years since Fresnel developed his wave theory, and obviously probably more famous for lenses these days. But so we were at the Royal Institution, and this is somebody's dodgy iPhone snapped from the gallery. You can see that His Royal Highness the Duke of York attended. It did cause us a few issues, especially when he turned up 20 minutes early, and security detail were like, "You've got to clear the area." I've still got 100 delegates coming in. Help! Anyway, he was very charming and very enthusiastic about the event, and only swore a little bit when Peter said, "Don't worry about the mercury." It's a bit of an awkward moment. Then one of the main events that we did was the Night of Heritage Light. I'm going to come back to that in a bit more detail. And then the year kind of finished, as I say, in Mexico. The Mexicans were very instrumental in making the International Year of Light happen. It needed delegates from a multiple number of countries in order to make it happen. The New Zealand delegation actually wrote the final letter urging UNESCO to do it. They were doing it on the basis that they're the first to see the sun every morning. Can't argue with that, probably. So we were invited out to Mexico to take part in the International Year of Light closing ceremony. This is the obvious selfie. I don't do selfies. Olivia took it. So this is Olivia Otieno, who's from a company called Sunny Money, who helped deliver solar-powered lighting to third world countries. And that's myself and Juliet from HQ. On the first night, we had a tour around the local historic cultural museum, and then they gave us this amazing light show projected onto the side of the building afterwards, which was really cool. Pretty much telling you the whole history of the Yucatan region. And then I was invited to take part in a colloquium with a couple of other light designers, a couple of scientists, and the chap who's responsible for the lighting of the historic quarters in Mexico City. We had this really long title given to us at the start, which boiled down to art or science. And then the day before, we were given this slide of what do you think of the state of the industry? Oh, that's quite an interesting question to ask. And they gave us 4 quotations that we could use to formulate an answer for, and they were all quite high-level Einstein quotes and various other things. But unfortunately, they put in one at my level, which was from Harry Potter, which was Dumbledore saying, "There are dark times ahead, and we must choose whether we take the easy path or the right path," which was great for me because it meant I could rabbit on about how good lighting design should be done properly and not easily. So that was quite interesting. It was an interesting debate. And it was actually held in Merida Town Centre. So it was the only event during the closing ceremony that was open to the public, which was quite interesting. And then on the last day, I was invited to take part in a cultural and heritage session. So I was invited to present the Night of Heritage Light, and also then we had a panel discussion afterwards. The first question I got asked was, "Why did you only do it in the UK? Was it not big enough?" So I've offered to help out if they want to do it in Africa. All expenses paid, of course. And then on the last night, we were taken down to Chichen Itza, which is a very famous historic site. And again, we had a lovely light show projected onto the pyramid and surrounds. And then just before I left, managed to catch up with John Dudley, and we had made some commemorative postcards from the Night of Heritage Light. So we were able to present that to him, which was quite nice. So, the Night of Heritage Light. I'm hoping you've all heard of it, right? Goodness for that. The Night of Heritage Light was born in October 2014, so a whole year beforehand. And and Rhiannon West, who was at BDP at the time, who's our regional rep in the Northwest, Dan Lister, who's the rep in Yorkshire, and myself were killing a bit of time before our late trains back from London to Manchester and Leeds and Sheffield. And we had a couple of beers, if I'm honest. And as all good ideas come from drinking beer, we came up with this idea to do something spectacular at the International Year of Light. And we wanted to create a light map. So can we light map the UK in some amazing way? And our initial thought was to find old historic buildings or relics which nobody goes and visits anymore because there's just one pillar left from a castle or bits of an archaeological site, but nobody really goes. And can we bring them back to life in some way? And then I had a bit of a light bulb moment when I was on the phone to a friend of mine in Northern Ireland, asking Davey, there must be some knackered old buildings in Northern Ireland, Davey, what have you got? I was like, why don't you just light Giant's Causeway? Okay. We go, oh, a UNESCO World Heritage Site? For the UNESCO International Year of Light. So you think, well, there can't be that many UNESCO World Heritage Sites in the UK, can there? Well, there's 26. That's quite a lot. It's a lot more than I thought. A couple of them are quite remote. We haven't got that many members in the Outer Hebrides. So obviously we need members to make this happen. But it still gave us the opportunity to do a light map. So we nailed down a few ideas for sites and expanded the team because it was all getting a bit out of hand, if I'm honest. So Simon Fisher from FMARC came on board to help get manufacturers to lend us some kit, and Brendan and Juliet at headquarters were working pretty much full time on it. So we identified 10 possible sites that we'd like to light. Some of them slightly more ambitious than others. So starting from the top, Giant's Causeway, Northern Ireland. It was quite an interesting conversation when I said, can we bring electricity to your wet, slippery rocks in October when it's going to be even wetter? Yeah, no problem. We did have a plan. Parts of Edinburgh Old Town, Fountains Abbey in Yorkshire, Liverpool Maritime in Merseyside, the Llangollen Aquaduct in North Wales, Ironbridge, as referenced earlier, Birmingham Ironworks in South Wales, Blenheim Palace in Oxfordshire, the Tower of London, and the Jurassic Coast. Oh yeah. We started having a bit of a thing with water. I don't know why, but it was good to get different, not just buildings, to have landscapes as well as buildings and different types. Perhaps the most obvious UNESCO World Heritage Site in the UK is Stonehenge. We didn't like Stonehenge because it comes down to being appropriate, and good lighting designers know when to stop. So we drew the line and didn't approach Stonehenge. Not sure they'll let us anyway. We did have some debates about just putting some torches around Stonehenge. Decided to be sensible and pragmatic about it. So our idea for the Night of Heritage Light was born. We created a hashtag for our social media, and then set about trying to get permission from all these people to trample over their buildings and landscapes for the crack of it. Our light map was sorted, apart from the fact we didn't have any sites agreed. And we set a date, 1st of October 2015. It was the week after the autumn equinox. It just felt about right. Engaged a number of lighting designers, different design practices, all came on board, gave their time freely. No one got paid for any of this. To create our night. And then design teams came up with some of them came up with a few concept images. This is the Liverpool site, and Cundalls were leading this. And initially, I think probably before they'd been to the docks, hadn't realised quite how big this graving dock is. It's huge. So initially they were just going to fill some bottles with water and light. They'd been drinking a lot in order to get that many bottles. But it was a nice idea. This was the Blenheim site in South Wales. This is probably the most, the closest visual or concept into how it got delivered, as you'll see. The Llangollen Aquaduct, the idea there was to create a river in the sky, which is exactly what an aqueduct is, of course. And the Jurassic Coast, I'm not sure that Whitegrove realised we were doing it in October, because he was going to create an impressionist painting with a boat gently bobbing under the arch of Durden Law. Okay, you gotta let them try. So obviously, in order to do this, we needed a bit more help. So we had massive support from the industry. Nobody said no when we said, "Can we borrow some stuff?" Everyone was really forthcoming. People were ringing us to say, "What can we do to help?" Which was amazing. It just couldn't have been done without it. And then obviously we had to do some negotiation with English Heritage, who owned a couple of the properties that were at National Trust, Rodden Giant's Causeway and Fountains Abbey. We got support from the Royal Photographic Society. They promoted the event to their members, so that we made sure we had photographers on every site. And we got support from the Electrical Contractors Association, because as much as we might run around the country doing mock-ups and bits and bobs and not worry too much about who wired it up in their garage, this was a slightly bigger thing. So we wanted a qualified electrician on every site, which the ECA helped us out with, which was great. So this is a couple of shots of the setup. As I say, this is Liverpool, so you can now see the kind of scale of how big this graving dock is. It would have taken a lot of lemonade bottles to fill that up. I don't think Andrew realised, and you can just about see how steep it is as well. You can get a better shot of it there. So this was them getting set up. I'm yet to work out how that floodlight is stuck to the graving dock, because there's a bit of gravity that would have a say in that, I think. And again, just a couple more shots from Liverpool. And like all good things, you know, we're setting this up in the day, under bright daylight. It was a beautiful sunny day, not knowing whether it's going to work until the witching hour came. This is a couple of shots from the team up at Fountains Abbey. I think Dave Batsby tweeted this, was needed a bigger car, particularly after the second run, which was just the cables. But you get an idea of the kind of scale of what was being done at all of these sites. The team there had a number of these little LED cubes, and they wanted to create a line of light along the river, so it meant that they had to tape 300 of these cubes to rods, which they were allowed to put 200 mil into the ground, otherwise we'd have had to have permission, because it's an archaeological site. So they spent a few hours taping light fittings or taping cubes to bits of rod, and then getting everything else in place. You can just about see Dan Lister there at the back, just having a bit of a quiet time of it. Not taping up things, just having a little sit. Dan had spent a couple of weeks sorting out, coordinating all of the power and cable, organising generators from HSS, and then when he got to site at Fountains Abbey, he realised just how big and heavy the generators that they'd hired were. So I think he spent that entire trip swearing mainly at himself for ordering all these generators. This was over at Giant's Causeway. This was the team looking happy before they realised just how far away the organ is from where they can park the car, and how far and how heavy their stuff was. So hysteria set in fairly quickly, but they did a magnificent job, I have to say. And everything was revolved around sunset. So the first site for official sunset was the Tower of London at 1841, and then the sun would creep round all of the other sites and finally hit Giant's Causeway at 7 minutes. So quite a small time frame between the first and last sites being lit. And these are the results. The Tower of London is largely lit already, but when we went down to have a chat with historical royal palaces, these two towers and the causeway are not lit, and it's actually the most important part of the site. It's where they have the ceremony of the keys each night, which is effectively the official closing of the tower each night. So for one night we were able to light the causeway, which was quite spectacular. You've probably seen this picture, it's been on various lighting magazines. This is the Jurassic Coast. We ended up, the people that owned the very old rowing boat that was going to bob gently under the arch got a bit nervous, partly because the week before there was the blood moon, which caused absolute carnage with the tides. So they had no idea what the tides were going to do, quite apart from the weather. So there was a bit of rejigging going on. But also then a local underwater swimming club and a local canoe club said, do you mind if we come and swim inside and outside the arch and canoe around it? Nope, your insurance, your problem, do what you like. So we had a canoeist under the arch in the end, which is pretty cool. You can probably just about see there was a lot of people down on that beach. I think we had about 3,000 people at Durdle Door that night. It was amazing. And that's just another image. This is the Blenavon one, which looks pretty much exactly like their visualisation. This was done by Hawley, and one of my favourite things about this site is that the little dots of light are LED tea lights in glasses with a piece of paper wrapped around them. And each piece of paper had a name of a member of the community that was alive at the time that the ironworks were at their greatest. So it really made it a community event. This is Blenheim Palace. I think DPA would have quite liked to light the entire palace, but we tried to rein them in a little bit and remind them that it was a one-night event. But I think they were down there for a couple of nights prepping up, but they did a spectacular job really highlighting the architecture of the palace. This is Ironbridge, some of you may have gone to. Apologies for the light pollution from the pub, but we had, I'm led to believe, local children had come down. I think there was about 700 people came to the bridge for the night, and children were racing to see if they could cross the bridge before it changed colour, and got completely enthralled by the whole thing. I'm told the local chip shop, the local pub and the local newsagent all stayed open late and did a roaring trade. So in terms of community benefit, yeah, we added a bit of community benefit to Telford and Ironbridge. So this is how Liverpool ended up. The ship that's in that graving dock is called the Dazzle ship. So for one night, I think the Dazzle ship was truly dazzled with a few helping hands with Rhiannon's glow sticks. Can't be the glow stick for a night of Heritage Light. The aqueduct didn't go ahead. We pulled out on the morning of the event. The day before the event, a boy drowned in the river quite close to the aqueduct, so we didn't feel it was appropriate for us to celebrate a night of light the following day, which was a shame, but the right thing to do. Phase sketch will live on. So this is Fountains Abbey. You can see the line of light highlighted by the river. One of the things we found out when we went down to talk to the National Trust, because again a lot of the abbey's lit and they quite often put lighting in the cloisters for special events, we wanted to do something a bit different. And talking to them, we found out that Fountains Abbey is only a World Heritage Site because of the connection with Studley Royal Water Gardens. And the chap that owned the water gardens bought the abbey a number of years ago, obviously. And the two being connected made it worthy of being a World Heritage Site. But visitors to the abbey used to come in through the water gardens and you walk along the hilltop and you get to what they call Llangollen Seat. And it's your first view of the abbey straight down the valley. And that east facade is not lit. So we were able to light the very facade, which means that it is a World Heritage Site, as well as linking back to Llangollen Seat. And they also used the colours from the International Year of Light logo to light the arches. They've used colour in a really delicate way. I think they've done a magnificent job on it. bit of light pollution, but hey, it's only temporary. Over in Edinburgh, the team did more of a kind of guerrilla lighting approach, but with big floodlights. Just carted big floodlights around. They took on an area of Edinburgh which is called Writer's Corner, and what they did was projected images and text from the people that lived in Writer's Corner and wrote about light, and projected that onto the buildings, which again I think was a really thoughtful approach to doing it. And over at Giant's Causeway, our solution to wet slippery rocks was these famous LED cubes, which were scattered across the stones to kind of display the breadth and height of the stone formations. And then when we got a bit further inland and away from the sea, we had some very low power generators and LED floodlights. So we were able to light up bits of the causeway and the organ to a dramatic event. The National Trust decided to open the visitor centre for the evening, and I got over there the day before, and they think we might have 200 or 300 people coming to us. So that's great, that's great. By the time I'd left that night, they were up to more like 600, and on the night had 1,000 people come through the visitor centre. They only had 1,500 in the day, so it was pretty amazing. It really got everyone's interest. So overall, we took on 10 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. We had around 100 design team members, 1,000 luminaires, and 2.5 kilometres of cable. One of our main aims for doing it, apart from just because we could, was to try to reach out to the public. Could we get somebody other than our own industry interested in light, and maybe show a new generation of lighters that this is what's possible. We were featured on BBC television. The One Show came down to Durdledore and took a load of footage. We had 4 minutes primetime BBC television, which I'm told in terms of advertising revenue is about £300,000. That's what it would have cost to have a 4-minute advert. We had 9 regional broadcasts featured in 2 national press and 14 regional press. And kind of our big thing for the night was Twitter. Could we create some interest on Twitter with our hashtag NOHL? On the night, there was about 1,000 tweets. None of them were from me, because I had the option of phone reception down at the Stones or Wi-Fi at the visitor centre. And I opted for the phone in case if anything was going to happen, I needed my phone on me. So there was 1,000 tweets on the night. That created 3 million impressions, so 3 million appearances from those 1,000 tweets. And the most startling stat for me remains 1.5 million interactions. So that's 1.5 million clicks. So someone's opened a photo, favourited, or retweeted. Physically, 1.5 million. That's amazing. Twitter enables us to have a look at our coverage and the associated words. Obviously, International Year of Light 2015, the bigger the word, the higher the thing. I'm slightly scared that this is on here, very proud Pecky. I really didn't tweet that much, but I was a very proud Pecky. But yeah, thanks for that. And also we were able to look at our global reach. So obviously we were very active in the UK and Ireland, across Europe, but also North America, South America, Australia, India. And we've really reached out across the world with that. Just going back to Giant's Causeway cubes. I was having a little moment to myself, admiring everything that was going on, seeing all these people come down, and I've been on the Ranger radios for the couple of days that I was over there, and a message comes through to me, Liz, are you down at the Stones? Yes, I'm down at the Stones. It's Head Ranger. He said, come find you. Is everything okay? Yeah, come find you. So he says, Liz, I need a couple of those cubes. What? He said, I need a couple of... Hang on, we've agreed no one goes on the Stones. You know, they're dangerous in the day. You have 4 rangers looking after people in the day. no one's going on the stones, this is what we agreed. Yeah, but I need a couple of cubes. Some kids, they really want a cube. Oh, alright. So I go towards where the Giant's Gate is, which is where people clamber up all the time. So I just have a little sit. Not climbing, just having a sit. Reach behind me, snaffle a cube, shove it in my jeans, spot a little low-lying one. Hang on, I'm just doing my laces. Snaffle them. Got used to find Neville. Right, where are these kids? Come with me. They're this big. Right, I don't have kids, but I think that makes them 5. So I'm like, right, I haven't even had the chance to turn this damn thing off. So it's glowing like anything. Got you a cube. Can't let anyone see that you've got one though, because everyone's going to want one. Can we put them in Mum's bag until you get in the car? Mum, don't let anyone see. You kind of go, I've sent 2 kids home with light in their hands. They're amazed by it. It's quite a cool thing. You know, we've had kids racing across Ironbridge, inspired by light. So if the legacy from the International Year of Light is that in 30 years' time, when somebody says to the next SLL president, how did you get into lighting? What if the answer's, this crazy lady gave me a cube of light. I didn't know at the time it cost 39p, but for me it was amazing. Or what if you were inspired by racing across the Ironbridge? Wouldn't that be cool? We have been shortlisted for the Light and Design Awards. The Society's never put in a project before. We're in the Heritage category. If we don't win it, I will cry. I might cry anyway. But that's amazing, and it's a tribute to everyone that was involved in the process, not just us that led it, but for everyone that played their part in it. So that was the Night of Heritage Light. I know I've got another slide. Oh yeah, let me look at the slide square. This is where I was last week. I was in Buckingham Palace. Get me. I went in the front door and everything. The Society decided to offer honorary fellowship to Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, in recognition for his contribution to the International Year of Light. And having contacted the office to say, how would we go about this? The reply came back saying, he's delighted to accept. Which wasn't necessarily the answer to the question. And then said, you know, would you like to come to one of our events? And the reply said, I can't do that event. Would you like to come to Buckingham Palace? Yeah, all right then. So last week, I only got found out today that I could talk to you about this, so it was a bit of a last minute addition. We rock up at Buckingham Palace and we're expecting to be ushered in a back door and, you know, have a little meeting and get kicked out 5 minutes later. So we get our instructions, we meet at the North Privy Gate. Look at that. Oh, that's at the front. That's where all the people peer through railings. So we're suited. I had to give up my trainers and everything. Actual proper, you know, jacket and trousers. What's that about? And we go through security and we're instructed to go through the front door, up the little red carpet. Get put in a little waiting room, that's fine. Then someone from the Duke's office comes down to collect us. We go up a flight of stairs and we're walking along. It's very nice. And his personal secretary meets us. So you're in this room here, it's the central room. Lovely. And we sit and have a chat for about 30 minutes. Just chewing the fat about lighting. And one of the, I'm not even sure how it came up now, one of the conversations was about the room that we're in. And Prince Andrew said, it's all very well, this room, he said, in the day, because we've got all this, so much daylight, because obviously these doors lead to the balcony. The balcony? As in that balcony? Oh, we're in that central room. Oh my. Whoa. And we had a bit of a chat, and then we gave him honorary fellowship. And he's as pleased as punch, which I think is really cool. And that pretty much wraps up our Year of Light. It started and ended with Prince Andrew attending our events or us going to see him. So that's it. Any questions?